A woman stands in a garden before sunrise. The air is cold, thick, with the dampness of morning dew and the heavy, bitter perfume of myrrh. On the edge of the Sea of Tiberias, they will sit around a fire eating fish he handed them, staring through the charcoal smoke. It contains a theological earthquake that shifts our entire understanding of eternity. Jesus possesses a glorified body. He can walk through solid timber. He can materialize and vanish at will. He has conquered the grave, conquered decay, conquered death itself. He could have chosen to step out of that tomb with flawless, unblemished skin, but he kept the wounds, even in perfection. The flesh is still torn. The hands are still pierced. The side is still laid open. The scars are not a flaw in his resurrected body. They are his eternal signature. They are the permanent, physical receipt of a debt paid in full. When the book of Revelation looks forward to the end of time, to the highest throne room of the universe, it does not describe a pristine, untouched king. It describes a lamb looking as if it had been slain. He carries the trauma of Friday straight into the glory of Sunday. God does not erase the suffering, he redeems it. Thomas does not even reach out his hand to touch the skin. The sight is enough. He simply collapses to the stone floor. The skepticism shatters into the highest declaration of worship recorded in the Gospels. My Lord and my God. The doubt is healed. The intellectual barrier is broken. But there is another man in this circle who does not have an intellectual barrier, completely terrified to ask his name. Same thing. Again and again, they look right at the God they have followed, the man they have eaten with. He has a moral one. He is carrying a failure so heavy it is crushing his lungs. And to fix it, Jesus is going to have to recreate a very specific scent in the cold morning air. We are a species driven by memory, and human memory is wired most aggressively to our physical senses. A single scent hitting your olfactory nerve can instantly pull you backward through time, dropping you directly into a memory you thought you had buried. John knows this. The author of the fourth gospel builds a linguistic trap out of a single smell. You find it in John chapter 21. 7 disciples are in a boat. They fish all night. The nets are empty. The water is cold. The sky turns gray. A man stands on the beach. He tells them to cast on the right side. The net instantly pulls taut. Peter knows exactly who it is. He throws himself into the freezing sea. He swims to the sand. He drags himself out of the water, soaked and gasping. And immediately, his senses are hit with a scent. John writes that they saw a fire of coals with fish laid on it. The word John uses for that fire is the Greek anthrakia, and their eyes slide right past him as if looking at a stranger. Most people read the 40 days between the resurrection and the ascension. It means a glowing bed of charcoal. It has a distinct, acrid smell, and if you read the original text, you will realize that this word appears exactly twice in the entire New Testament. To find the first one, you have to rewind to John chapter 18. Verse 18. Jesus is inside the high priest's house. Bleeding, Peter is outside in the courtyard, shivering in the dark. He walks up to a fire to warm his hands. A servant girl asks a question. He curses. He denies his rabbi. The rooster crows. Peter's world shatters. The specific word John uses for the fire in that courtyard? Anthrakia. It is the exact same word, the exact same smell. Jesus does not just cook a random breakfast. He deliberately recreates the precise sensory environment of Peter's darkest, most shameful failure. He forces Peter to smell the charcoal smoke of his own betrayal. But watch what happens next. He does not demand an explanation. He hands Peter a piece of warm, roasted fish. He feeds him, and then he asks a single question. 3 times. Do you love me? 3 denials around the first anthrakia. As a simple victory lap. We assume it is a sequence of random reunions, a biological proof of life to convince his friends the tomb is empty. 3 declarations of love around the second anthrakia. The charcoal fire is not a weapon of shame. It is the architecture of his restoration. Jesus uses the very trigger of Peter's trauma to rewrite his future. He takes the scent of failure and turns it into the smell of grace. He does not bypass the brokenness. He walks Peter directly back through it. Peter is completely restored. The fisherman has his soul back. But a healed soul is not enough to launch a global movement. A restored leader is just a man with a clean conscience. They need something else, and to give it to them, the resurrected king commands them to leave the beach and climb a massive limestone hill in Galilee, where the final transfer of power is waiting. They climb the mountain. The limestone is rugged beneath their sandals, and the wind blowing off the Sea of Galilee carries the sharp scent of wild mustard and dry dirt. They are not alone this time. The Apostle Paul tells us in his letters that at one point, the resurrected Christ manifests to more than 500 brothers at once. And many scholars believe this specific Galilean hillside is exactly where that massive gathering happens, before he goes back to heaven. But if you look closer at the strange way he appears, at the locked doors he suddenly bypasses. 500 people stand on a ridge, staring at a man who was publicly executed in Jerusalem just weeks earlier. Matthew records the moment in the final verses of his gospel, and he notes a detail that most writers would have scrubbed out of the official record. He says that when they see him, they worship him, but some doubt, even now. Looking right at the resurrected king, standing in the physical presence of the new creation. The human mind still struggles to hold the sheer weight of the reality in front of it. But Jesus does not address the doubt. He does not offer another piece of biological evidence. He steps forward, his voice cutting through the wind, and he makes the most absolute, sweeping claim ever uttered by a human mouth. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. The Greek word he uses for authority here is exousia. It does not just mean raw, physical power or the ability to exert force. It means the legal, undeniable right to rule. It is a term of jurisdiction for centuries. The earth had been functioning under a corrupted management, ruled by fractured allegiances, dark spiritual powers, and the heavy, unbreakable law of death. Jesus stands on the dirt of Galilee and announces that the title deed to the cosmos has been legally transferred into his pierced hands. At the very specific things he chooses to eat and say, you start to see something, the victory lap reading completely misses. And then, he immediately delegates it. He tells them to go and make disciples of all nations. He takes the absolute jurisdiction of the universe and hands the keys to a ragtag group of fishermen, zealots, and tax collectors, surrounded by 500 confused followers in the Galilean wind. This is not an invitation to start a religious program. It is a cosmic transfer of jurisdiction. He is telling them that they are now the active agents of his exousia. They are tasked with walking into the brutal, iron-fisted empires of the ancient world and planting the flag of a completely different king. They are meant to baptize, to teach, and to subvert the dying systems of the earth with the radical, upside-down economy of heaven. He promises to be with them until the very end of the age, sealing the contract with his own presence. The mission is set. The authority is granted. But the Galilean mountain is not the final stop. To finish the 40 days, to complete the architecture of his victory, they have to walk all the way back to the shadow of Jerusalem. They have to stand on one last ridge, look up at the clouds, and watch the physical laws of gravity finally break. We are conditioned by modern storytelling to view the departure of the hero as a moment of profound sorrow. These 40 days are not a farewell tour. They are a retraining. He is not just proving he is alive. We watch movies where the protagonist finishes the mission, says a tearful goodbye, and rides off into the horizon, leaving the rest of the world behind to fend for itself. We project that exact sentimental framework onto the final moments of the 40 days. We imagine Jesus floating into the stratosphere like a balloon, shrinking into a speck against the blue sky, leaving his friends with aching necks and a crushing sense of absence. But that is a complete misreading of ancient cosmic architecture. To the modern mind, the cloud that receives Jesus on the Mount of Olives is just condensed water vapor. It is meteorology. But to the Jewish mind, steeped in the ancient texts, a cloud is not weather. It is the Shekinah, the heavy, blinding glory of the immediate presence of God. A cloud covered the black granite of Sinai. A cloud filled the golden space of the Holy of Holies so completely that the priests could not even stand up to breathe. A cloud shielded 1,000,000 wandering refugees from the scorching desert sun. When Jesus rises from the dusty ridge of the olive grove, he is not just traveling upward. He is stepping into the divine throne room. He is fulfilling the ultimate prophecy of Daniel chapter 7. He is teaching them how to perceive an entirely new kind of reality. If your closest friend walked into a room right now, hundreds of years earlier, the prophet Daniel saw a vision of a human figure, a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven, approaching the Ancient of Days to receive an everlasting, indestructible dominion. When the disciples stand in the dirt, shielding their eyes from the harsh glare of the Judean sun, they are not watching a man leave. They are watching Daniel's vision happen in real time. The ascension is not an evacuation. It is an installation. He is taking physical, scarred human flesh, the iron-torn wrists, the spear-pierced lungs, the tangible matter of our reality, and seating it directly at the control center of the universe. For the first time in eternity, a human being is running the cosmos. He did not ascend to take a rest. He ascended to take the wheel. He went up so that he could pour his spirit down, directing the entire global operation of the early church from the highest seat of authority. They stand there, feet planted in the dry olive groves, staring at the empty sky until two angels have to physically interrupt them and tell them to get moving. They are paralyzed because their minds are trying to process the magnitude of the shift. He didn't just conquer death. He conquered distance. That installation echoes down through the centuries, crashing directly. You would know them instantly by their silhouette. You would recognize the rhythm of their footsteps. But the resurrected Jesus moves differently, into the present moment. And it leaves every single one of us with a deeply personal, unavoidable decision. He stood in a misty garden, and the physical laws of the universe were entirely rewritten. He walked a 7-mile road in disguise, and the broken theology of 2 grieving men was unraveled. He tore a loaf of bread at a wooden table, and the blinded eyes of humanity were suddenly opened. He bypassed the iron deadbolt of a barricaded house, and the breath of a new creation filled the lungs of cowards. He carried his torn wrists into the shadows, and the deepest skepticism of a human heart was permanently shattered. He cooked fish over the acrid smoke of a charcoal fire, and a crushed fisherman finally got his soul back. He rode a cloud into the highest throne room, and a scarred human being took the wheel of the cosmos. Same flesh, same king, one unbroken reality. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the charcoal fire. The anthrakia, not the blinding glory of the ascension, and not the cosmic transfer of absolute authority on the mountain. He operates under a physics that the human mind is not yet equipped to process. To understand what actually happens when Jesus walks out of the grave, the fact that the King of the universe, having just conquered the grave and defeated death itself, took the time to meticulously recreate the exact sensory environment of his friend's darkest failure. He did not do it to punish him. He did it to walk him straight through the ashes and feed him a piece of warm fish. If you are in a season where your own failure feels like a room with a locked door, if you are sitting with the acrid smoke of a decision you cannot undo, the post-resurrection encounters are a place to sit. He does not ask you to clean yourself up before he enters. He does not wait for you to fix your own vision. The locked door is not a boundary to his grace. It is the exact place he chooses to manifest. He steps right through the barricade you built, carrying the physical receipts of his love on his own skin. If this opens something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this with someone who feels like they are walking the road to Emmaus right now, wandering in the dark. She is weeping outside a grave cut into solid rock. The massive circular stone is rolled back. You cannot just look at the empty tomb. You have to trace every footstep he takes after he leaves it. You have to examine a locked room. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who kept the scars on his own hands step through the locked doors of your fear and breathe an entirely new creation into your lungs. A charcoal fire. and a mountain in Galilee. But the place to start is not with the physical encounters themselves. To understand why they could not see him, you have to look at the specific language the biblical writers used to describe how he arrived. There is a detail hiding in plain sight, buried in a single Greek word. Open the book of Acts. Chapter 1, verse 3. The physician, Luke, is sitting down to write the sequel to his gospel. He is tasked with bridging the bloody reality of the crucifixion with the explosive birth of the early church. He writes that Jesus presented himself alive by many infallible proofs, and the English translation usually says he was seen by them during 40 days. But the English translation is flattening the text. The word Luke uses for seen here is the Greek optonomai. It is the linguistic root from which we pull our modern words like optical or optometry. But in the first-century Mediterranean world, this verb carries a very specific, heavy weight. It is not the ordinary word for glancing at a bird in the sky. The linen cloths are folded neatly on the cold floor. But the body she came to anoint is gone. Or watching a wooden cart roll down a cobblestone street. Or recognizing a friend across a crowded marketplace. In ancient Greek literature, optonomai is almost exclusively used for a divine or supernatural manifestation. It is the exact word used when a terrifying angel suddenly materializes in the shadowy, incense-filled space of the temple. It does not just mean to look at an object. It means to let oneself be seen. It describes an entity crossing a dimensional boundary and actively choosing to become visible to the fragile human eye. When the Apostle Paul writes to the church in Corinth, laying out his famous list of resurrection encounters, he uses the related grammatical form, ophthah. He appeared to Cephas. He appeared to the 12. He appeared to 500 at once. The grammar places all the active agency on Jesus. The observers are completely passive. They do not find him. He manifests to them. That root changes everything about how we read the 40 days. It explains exactly why Mary Magdalene stood weeping in the garden and thought she was speaking to a landscaper. His disciples could not simply spot him in a crowd, because his resurrected body was operating under a completely new set of physical laws. She hears a rustle in the olive branches, a footstep on the gravel behind her. She turns. She sees a man standing in the pale morning mist. The resurrection is not a resuscitation, it is an invasion. A resuscitated corpse simply wakes up, wrapped in bandages, and still belongs to the decaying physics of the current world. A resurrected body is a piece of the new creation crashing into the old one. It is humanity fully perfected. Operating at a frequency our current eyes are simply not equipped to process unless he explicitly turns the dial and grants us the vision. He was not wearing a disguise. Our vision was just broken. He had to open their eyes, but he does not do it all at once, and he does not do it with a brilliant flash of lightning. To see exactly how this optonomai functions in the dirt and dust of Judea, you have to step onto a dirt road and follow two deeply confused men, walking slowly west into the fading light of a Sunday afternoon. The road is dusty. The sun is sinking over the Judean hills. Two men walk west toward a village called Emmaus. Their sandals hit the dirt in a slow, heavy rhythm. They are broken. They are grieving. They are trying to make sense of a dead Messiah. They saw the nails. They heard the hammer. They watched the blood soak into the rock of Golgotha. The hope of Israel is gone. She has spent the last 3 years of her life following this man. She has listened to the specific cadence of his voice every single day. A third man steps onto the path. He matches their pace. He walks beside them. He asks what they are debating. Luke tells us exactly what is happening in the Greek text. Their eyes were restrained. They look at him. They see a dusty traveler. They see a fellow pilgrim. They do not see the king. The physics of the new creation are standing right in front of them, but their vision cannot pierce the veil. They tell the stranger about the crucifixion. They tell him about the women finding an empty tomb. They sound utterly defeated. Then the stranger speaks. He calls them foolish. He calls them slow of heart. And then he begins to teach. He starts at Genesis. He moves through Moses. He walks through the prophets. He threads every ancient promise together. He explains why the Christ had to suffer. Their hearts burn in their chests. The words feel like fire. The theology is flawless. The exegesis is unparalleled. But their eyes stay locked. They are intellectually stimulated. But they are still spiritually blind. They reach the village. The sky turns dark purple. The shadows stretch long across the road. The stranger acts like he will keep walking into the night. They beg him to stay. The evening air is turning cold. They step inside a small house. They sit at a rough wooden table. An oil lamp flickers in the corner, on the dusty roads of Galilee. She watched him die on a piece of Roman timber less than 48 hours ago. The stranger does not wait to be served. He takes the role of the host. He takes the round loaf of bread. He holds it in his hands. He speaks the ancient Jewish blessing. He tears the crust. The sharp sound of ripping bread echoes in the quiet room. And in that exact second, the restraint snaps. The veil drops. They see his face. They see him. And instantly, the space is empty. He vanishes from their sight. Only the torn bread remains on the rough wood. They listen to him preach the greatest sermon in human history for 7 miles. And they remained completely blind. The theology did not unlock their vision. The exposition did not fix their sight. The revelation is not an intellectual download. It is an intimate communion. It is the breaking of the bread that opens their eyes. They jump up. They leave the food on the table. They run the 7 miles back to Jerusalem in the pitch black. They have to tell the others. They have to find the 11 disciples. But the room they are running toward is hiding a completely different kind of impossibility. John chapter 20 sets the scene. The 2 men from Emmaus have rushed back, but the disciples are in hiding. The thick wooden door is barricaded. The iron deadbolt is drawn. It is a room suffocating with anxiety, the stale heat of unwashed bodies, and the crushing weight of profound failure. But she looks directly into his face, and she does not know who he is. She assumes he is the gardener, and she is not the only one. Every man in this room abandoned him. Peter is sitting in the corner, still haunted by the sound of a rooster crowing. They are terrified that the same Roman soldiers who drove the iron spikes through their rabbi are coming to break down that door next. Then, without the wood splintering, without the iron deadbolt sliding back, Jesus is simply standing in the center of the room, so he stands in the middle of their terror. He does not demand an apology. He does not ask Peter why he ran. The first word out of the mouth of the resurrected Christ to the men who deserted him is the Greek word eirene, peace. But eirene is just the Greek translation for the ancient Hebrew concept of shalom. It does not mean a quiet room. It does not mean a mere cessation of conflict. It means complete wholeness. It means taking shattered, fragmented pieces of a community or a human soul and knitting them back together into their original, intended design. He is not just offering a polite greeting. He is declaring an active restoration. Then he does something that completely baffles the modern reader. He steps close to the men who betrayed him, and he breathes on them. He says, "Receive the Holy Spirit." To grasp what is actually happening in this moment, you have to look. A few days later, 2 disciples will walk 7 miles with him on the road to Emmaus, listening to him explain the Torah for hours at the specific verb John uses for breathed. The Greek word is emphusao. In the entire Greek translation of the Old Testament, the Septuagint, this specific verb appears in a major way at the very beginning of the scroll. You have to go all the way back to Genesis chapter 2. God forms a body out of the mud, leans over the lifeless clay, and emphusao, he breathes into his nostrils the breath of life. The breath in the locked room is not a random gesture. It is a divine reenactment. Jesus is the new creator, standing in the middle of a broken world, breathing life into a new humanity formed out of the dirt of their own failure. The resurrection is not just a patch over a dying system. It is an entirely new Genesis. But there is a problem. The room is incomplete. One of the inner circle is missing. And when he finally returns to that barricaded house, a word of peace and a theological breath will not be enough to override his grief. He is going to demand something far more visceral. Thomas is not in the room when the breath of life fills the air. When he finally returns, he finds 10 men speaking like they have lost their minds. They tell him the grave is empty. They tell him the ghost had flesh, and they will think he is a random traveler. Later still, 7 of his closest friends will watch him cook breakfast. Thomas shakes his head. He watched the Roman executioner swing the mallet. He saw the iron tear through cartilage and bone. He saw the spear pierce the side, the blood and water pooling in the dust. He refuses to let his fragile hope be manipulated by a collective hallucination. He draws a line in the sand. Unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. 8 days pass. 8 days of suffocating tension. 8 days of Thomas sitting in the corner, holding his grief like a shield, while the others whisper about a miracle. The doors are locked again. The oil lamps cast long, flickering shadows against the stone walls. Thomas is sitting with them. Jesus steps through the wall. He does not address the collective. He does not deliver a sermon. He locks eyes with the skeptic. He does not scold Thomas for his demands. He does not punish him for needing physical proof. He steps close, holding out his wrists, and offers him exactly what he asked for. Put your finger here, and see my hands, and put out your hand, and place it in my side. Look closely at the impossible reality standing in the center of that room.